What about the bailout from the federal government? Is that maybe creating some false hope for people?
Well, there's a lot going on with that, and it seems like every week there's some new bailout plan that's coming out. And this has been the case since last fall, really, where people have heard about lots of different sources of money coming to the state. And so every time there's a news story about some large amount of money that supposedly is going to come to the state in the bailout package, the hotline gets a lot of calls, the counselors get a lot of questions, do I qualify? And that's really fine, because that's an appropriate place to start, is by talking to a housing counselor. Because it's really hard to get good information about that, especially since it's changing all the time, and it's really hard to find someone who knows everything about all of these packages. We try to, as much as we can, provide the sort of training necessary to the housing counselors affiliated with the hotline so that they know what's going on. And so we're always constantly trying to find out more and get out the information. And so that really is a very reliable place to start out. But really it's a challenge of finding out whether you qualify. But these bailout packages do not involve checks being written to the homeowners, and you're not going to be able to call the hotline and get free money. Really, you need to call the hotline as an informational service and find out what you need to know about these pieces of legislation and really proceed from there.
And a good part, to jump in, at least as the programs were initially developed, a lot of it focused around the issue of voluntary modification by the lenders. So this goes back to reiterating, contact your lender first. Still, that's probably the best program that's available out there, is for you to be proactive and contact your lender.
If the worst happens and you do lose your home, who can help you there? I mean, are you literally out on the street, or is there some housing assistance that's available?
I think right there, that's not the worst thing that can happen. It's definitely a difficult situation to go through, and it's definitely a very emotional situation to be involved in, but it's important to understand that there are other alternatives out there. There are other solutions as far as providing shelter for your family. And so understanding that as you're going through this, that you need to look at the financial side of it and be conscious of, is this house going to work within my current financial situation? Because a lot of people look at it and say, well, I can't lose this house. Well, yes, you could, and you could maybe do better by renting somewhere else that's even closer to your children's school, or that there might be a better alternative out there if you can open yourself up to that.
So don't look at it like it's the end of the world, I guess.
That's true, and housing counseling agencies can help with rental referrals as well.
Well, and a good point to make also is that, and certainly at the hotline, we do not necessarily consider it success if you're in the house for the long term. Success really for us is you're avoiding foreclosure. And so for many people, the solution to their foreclosure problem is to sell the home and to maintain as much equity as they can and to preserve their credit as much as they can. And so for many people, the solution, the only possible solution, is to sell the home and to leave the home in some fashion. You want to do that in a way where you're not foreclosing and ruining your credit for a very long time. And so that's certainly something that people need to keep in perspective. Is the goal is to avoid foreclosure, not necessarily to stay in the house.
Right.
And so if you foreclose and you do have to leave the house, it really goes back to what Zach said. That is then, I mean, there are other means of finding shelter, but really the best strategy is to figure out what your options are short of foreclosure, even if that does involve leaving the house.
It's unfortunate so many people are facing the possibility of foreclosure, but thank you guys for shedding a little light on how to navigate your way through that.
Glad to be here.
Appreciate your expertise. Again, the most important thing you can do if you're facing foreclosure is to start talking with a housing counselor and your lender. Here's some resources to get you started. You can call the Colorado Foreclosure Hotline at 1-877-601-HOPE. You can find a list of HUD-approved counselors and a wealth of other information at www.hud.gov/foreclosure. And to verify the licenses of mortgage brokers and realtors, visit www.dora.state.co.us/real estate. And as if we don't already have enough to worry about, we touched on it earlier, consumer fraud rises in times of economic trouble. Find out what to watch for next.